Let us start the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right. Were you able to print out the, I know I put the sutra out a little bit late. I can share the screen also if you would prefer that.
I was able to print
Do you
out.
want me to share the screen?
I got it.
You have it? Hello?
Printed. I printed out.
Someone.
So I printed out my copy.
Okay. So today we are starting the Ānuttariya Sutta. It is rather a short sutta. It is not too much of a long sutta. It is a part of the Ānuttariya Nikaya. It is a part of the Ānuttariya Nikaya. It is a short sutta, but I think it has a few salient points which are quite important in terms of discernment, one, and also with regards to the supportive factors leading towards enlightenment, specifically stream mentorship, right? So would you like me to share the screen, or do you have the recording, the screen, the printout? You have it?
Can you share the screen, please?
We have it one.
Yes, please. Okay. Okay, I will share the screen. All right. The Ānuttariya Sutta. Page number 130. Bhikkhus. The second discourse on the unsurpassables. Bhikkhus. You have been speaking. I have been on mute. That is why I couldn't hear you. Okay. Okay. All right. Bhikkhu. There are 6 unsurpassables. What are the 6? They are the unsurpassable
Vision.
the unsurpassable listening, the unsurpassable gain, the unsurpassable training, the unsurpassable service, the unsurpassable recollection. Seeing the Buddha or the saints. And what bhikkhus is an unsurpassable vision? Dassana Nuttariya. Here, bhikkhus, one goes to see the elephant treasure, right? Now, elephant treasure, the horse treasure, the gem treasure, or one goes to see this and that. The treasures, this relates to the treasures of the Chakravarti, right? Now, the Mahat Chakravarti has the beetle treasure, the elephant treasure, the horse treasure, gem treasure, woman treasure, householder treasure, and the advisor treasure, or the treasurer, right? The treasurer, right? The one who takes care of wealth and the gold and silver in storage, right? Those are, and the Gahapati treasure, right? Gahapati treasure, which is a household treasure, and the treasurer. So the elephant treasure refers to the treasures of the Chakravarti. Back in the day when Chakravartis used to, or the Chakravarti used to live, what used to happen was these treasures were quite prominent. People used to come, from faraway places to see these treasures of the Chakravarti, right? To see these treasures of the Chakravarti. And remember that during the time of the Chakravarti, a Chakravarti is usually very much loved by his people, right? Very much loved by his people. Quite much, I think, um, a modern day example would be the king
of Bhutan.
the king of Bhutan, who
Bhutan.
was loved by the people, so much so that the people voted against democracy to keep the king back, right?
Yes.
And rightfully so, because when you look at the way that he manages the country, there is no need for democracy because the king takes care of everything, right? And he has met with a representative of each and every family in the country. To that extent, the king is very much active and takes to heart the benefit of his subjects. Seeing the Buddha and what bhikkhus, okay, here bhikkhus, one goes to elephant treasure, the horse Zen treasure, or one goes to see this, so that, this and that, right? Meaning various things. Or one goes to see a recluse or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Bhikkhus is this vision. This is not, I say, it is not so. For that vision, bhikkhus is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not associated with the spiritual goal, and brings about no revulsion, no fading away of lust, no ending of suffering, no stilling of defilements, no direct knowledge, no self-awakening, and no nibbana, right? But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, right? Full of faith here, the word is given as abhipassano, right? Abhipassano means knowing well, right? Understanding well, having a good view in mind, right? Nurtured by everything that is good action which is done with that sense of goodness at heart, abhipassana, right? But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, right? Single-minded with means a mind free of doubt, right? A mind free of doubt, full of faith, goes to see the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple. That bhikkhu has unsurpassable vision for the purification of being, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of physical and mental pain, for gaining the right way, for realizing,
Nirvana.
Realizing Nibbana. It should be realization.
for realizing Nibbana.
Yes. Yeah.
That is to say, when one set in faith, set in love, single mind, full of faith, goes to see the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple, this bhikkhus is called unsurpassable vision. Such is the unsurpassable vision. Now, this talks about two instances, right? An instance where a person in Sinhala language, we say yannang wale yanne, right? So it talks about an instance where a person goes to see the Tathagata or the Tathagata goes to see this or that, like a tourist, right? Let's go to see something today. With that kind of mind, he goes to see even a recluse or a Brahmin given of right view or wrong view, right? That the Tathagata says is not true vision. Then there is a person where with the devotion, the commitment at heart, the vision, the understanding goes to see, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, goes to see Tathagata's disciple, right? That is what is known as, according to the sutta, unsurpassable vision. Now,
But-
what do you think the difference is? What do you think the difference is?
One goes without any.
Anyone?
One goes by letting go on the, you let it things go so that you're going on the path to nirvana with karma, and the other one you're going to see things that are satisfying the senses, like the elephants and the horses, and without any goal or any aim in mind. While the other one is directly leading to nirvana. Chanda as opposed to desire.
Okay. Okay. Chanda as opposed to desire. Anyone else? Anyone else?
The first person goes without a clear mind, and then the other person goes with the clear thinking and with dedication to understand. Like that's the 3.4.
Okay. 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 When we speak about the sense of, knowing, a sense of beholding, or no, we speak about a sense of understanding when it comes to the value of a certain thing, right? In the first instance, it lacks that sense of value in terms of what is taken in, or how a certain thing is going to be perceived. Then we have the sense of the second instance, where with faith and all those contributing factors which supports the enlightenment process, where a person then journeys on a certain journey to behold something of certain value, right? Something of certain value. 3.5, listening to the Buddha or the saints. And what is the unsurpassable listening? Here, because one goes to listen to the sound of drums, the sound of the veena, lute, the sound of singing, or one goes to listen to this and that, or goes to listen to the Dhamma of a recluse or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Right? Because is this listening? This is not it, I say. It is not so. For that listening because is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not associated with the spiritual goal. Not associated with the spiritual goal. Right? Now, again, I think we can bring in the story of the paramis here again. Remember, the paramis in practice, all the 10, the 30 variations are all clearly in the beginning, middle, and end associated with the final goal of liberation. If the final goal of liberation is not clearly signified, is not clearly laid out by the mind before the action is done, then the action does not effectively lead to becoming a parami. Right? We can bring in now kamma. Right? How can we bring in kamma? Anyone? I think all of the people here come to the Abhidhamma class as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Except I think Mahal and Lakshmi. I'm not sure whether Lakshmi comes, but what do you think? How can we bring in kamma to this? Damsiri, want to have a go? No? Think about it.
Because um,
How can we bring in karma to that? We did this on Monday. Remember the difference between I'm sorry, Pavatti Kamma,
yes.
right? And the other Kammas. Pavatti Kamma, for a Kamma to be a Pavatti Kamma, and then we have Kammas which can fulfill the Patisandhi Kamma. Right?
Bhante, you mean pravrutti kamma?
Ah. Mm. Excuse me. Okay, it's been a long day.
Excuse Bhante wholeheartedly.
All right.
Ante, its meaning is the same
Yes. The
because
yes.
you said the pavatti karma and the pravrutti karma is the same.
Yeah. When it comes to the kammas which do not give patisandhi result and the kammas that give patisandhi result,
That is the results. Yes.
right? For a karma to give patisandhi result, it must fulfill the full cycle of karma, isn't it?
Yes.
Which also symbolifies the fact that the karma is now in its whole full state, right? Meaning with volition, the action is done, right, and fulfilled. In where a paramita, a perfection, is now able to change a life, to develop a energy that is able to now facilitate and produce such a great amount of wholesome result, it has to have the sense of wisdom, that sense of completeness coming into it. Similar discussion, similar talk when it comes to paramitas, right? Remember, I quoted a sutta some time ago where it is said in the Sutta Pitaka, I can't remember which sutta it was, all the Tathagatas attain Nibbana early in the morning. Remember, I told you. Why does that happen? It is spoken of in the Sutta Pitaka to say it is because all the Tathagatas get up in the morning and practice meditation in the morning as a Bodhisattva. So the energy at that time, because the mind, Hurua, with the habitual practice of meditating at that specific time of day, it filters through to give that result in that specific day as well. Right? That is an energy. For that energy to be that powerful, jnana here, jnana is supportive, there is an action, and that whole phase of action is, of course, supported by the need to attain to the path and fruits of spirituality. Do you understand how we connected karma there? Right? Padma? No. Padma, you off the camera. Is that a yes or a no, Padma? Do you want me to explain that again?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. A paramita is something which pulls a person out of the cycle of rebirth and death. It is no faulty weak karma that supports or that is created by the parami. Such a karma is supported by, of course, pure volition and pure deed. Now, coming to the sutta, a person goes to listen to the sound of drums, the veena, the singing, listening to this or that, and he also goes to listen to the Dhamma. regardless of a recluse saying good or bad, whatever. That person is very much different from a person who goes with an aim to a person who goes with a sense of mind pointed towards the learning of something which would be conducive to liberation. Is that understood now? Yeah. Okay. All right. Then we have Mahal Ternada. I told Mahal especially to come today because she was like, I think the others, she was waiting for the 6 o'clock Deshana. So she's texting me and asking me, where is the Deshana? It's late. So I told her to come. Okay. Now, where were we? 4.3. Okay. 4.3. But because when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, goes to listen to the Dhamma of the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple, that because is the unsurpassable listening for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, which is Paticcasamuppada, dependent origination, for the disappearance of physical and mental pain, for gaining the right way for realization of nirvana. There is, for the first person who is a weaker kind, there is a greater danger. What do you think that greater danger is? Any idea?
Your mind can get attracted to the sensual, the kama chanda, because all those things stimulate the play and the music and the sound and the dancing, and all those will attract, you will have the aramana getting attracted to the sense of to the indriya, and then that can take you back.
But not exactly. True, you're very close. You're very close. What else? Unmindful listening, right? Let's say a person, Sinhala භාෂාවෙන් කියනවා වගේ යන්නම් බාලේ ගිහිල්ලා මොකක් හරි අහනවා, listens to something. The mind is unguarded. So what happens? Absorbing adhamma as dhamma. Isn't that a danger, a greater danger? When the mind is unguarded, you're not on your guard. You're not discerning. You're just accepting, like an empty vessel receiving liquid into it. Whatever the liquid might be, drinkable or not, receiving this liquid in. Just so, this person who is the first person, because of his unguarded mind, can also fall to cultivate mithya drushtika or adhammika views. Isn't that a possibility? Right there. Yeah, Dil?
Ante, it is like when you describe in the morning about indriyas and befores and balas, when your mind has no sati and when there is no mindfulness, right? That's why there is always a focused attention is not there with the indriya. It's only leader. But when that attention and the satya comes in, then when you're enlightened, it is like the bala. So it's like
Yes,
what you
absolutely. You can connect it to the indriyas and the balas for sure, right? Because it is that lack of indriya which lets then to this grasping of what is wrong as right, right? Let's move on, right? 4.4. That is to say, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, goes to listen to the Dhamma of the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple, this bhikkhus is called unsurpassable listening, right? Such is the unsurpassable and unsurpassable vision and unsurpassable listening. Faith in the Buddha or the saints. And what is the unsurpassable gain, right? Here, bhikkhus, one gains a child, a wife.
5.1.
The way that they have translated it is a bit weird, isn't it? A woman in the house, very misogynistic.
It's 1.5.
Page number 132. Right?
5.1.
Right? Or a wife, or wealth, or gains. Oh, here I think they say woman in the house because back in the day, not you had other women in the house other than the wife, the harem, right? The wealthy people showed off their wealth by having multiple women at home, right? So maybe that is why. So maybe it's not misogynistic, right? Or wealth, or one gains this and that, or one gains faith in a recluse or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Bhikkhus, is this gain, right? Is this gain? This is not it. I say it is not so. For that gain, bhikkhus, is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not associated with the spiritual goal, and brings no revulsion, no fading away of lust, no ending of suffering, no stilling of defilements, no direct knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, no self-awakening, no nirvana. But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, gains, patilavati, right? Gains greater faith in the Tathagata or in the Tathagata's disciple. That bhikkhus is the unsurpassable gain for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of physical and mental pain, for gaining the right way, for realizing nirvana. Remember here, the Tathagata and the Tathagata's disciple, we have to take this in the way of Dhamma. The Tathagata is the embodiment and representation of Dhamma. This is not to behold the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple as in a godly manner, but this is to behold the Tathagata through which the Dhamma is received and learnt. Right? The Tathagata is a representation of that Dhamma. Right? Is a representation of the Dhamma. Dil, your hand is up?
No, sir, but that was earlier, Bhante. I'm sorry, Bhante. I should have put it down. I'm sorry.
Sure, that's no problem. Right. That bhikkhus is the unsurpassable gain for the purification of beings. Now, this is something. Let us look at an example. There are people in the world who might attribute true happiness and true meaning of life to the gain of certain materialistic or human pleasures. It is quite sometimes, as a person of Dhamma, when we listen to people sort of talking about, how they feel so happy and all of these things. Yes, of course, right? But at the end, we understand, look, it's not going to be so, right? That sense, but the thing is, although people of Dhamma who have a certain practice might realize this, not all people might understand that what they have accomplished just might be for that moment, but not something that gives them proper dues in the future in terms of happiness leading to greater happiness, right? The Buddha says there are happinesses in this world. In the present moment, it looks, it sounds, it feels quite happy and pleasurable. But this happiness in the future becomes a burden, becomes something that makes one literally cry. Then there are happinesses in the world. At this moment, it is happy. In the future, it is happy as well. Then there is pain in this world. Now it's painful, but in the future, it can also create greater pain. Then there is pain in the world where it is now painful, but in the future, it creates more and more pleasure and happiness. The Buddha clearly says, the one who lives the life through wisdom, he can clearly now understand what to let go, what to embrace, what is or what should one then embrace. He should embrace the happiness now, which brings happiness in the future, and the pain now, which brings happiness in the future. And the other two, he puts aside and lets go, right? Puts aside and lets go. Spiritual training, right? 5.5. And what is the unsurpassable training? Here, bhikkhus, one trains regarding elephants, or in horseship, or in a chariot, or in archery, or in swordmanship, or one trains in this and that, or one trains following a recluse or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Bhikkhus, is this training? It is not it. This is not it, I say. It is not so. For that training, bhikkhus, is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not associated with the spiritual goal, and brings about no revulsion, no fading away of lust, no ending, no stilling of defilements, no direct knowledge, no self-awakening, no nirvana. No nirvana. But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, trains in teaching and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata, or trains oneself in the higher moral virtue, Adi Sila, or trains one in the higher mind, Adi Chitta, one trains oneself in higher wisdom, Adi Panya. That bhikkhus is the unsurpassable training for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of physical and mental pain, for gaining the right way, for realizing nirvana, right? For realizing nirvana. Here, it speaks to, in the Vinaya Pitaka, it specifically states the importance of going, or one who is committed to the practice, to keep on nurturing and nourishing that said practice with trainings that further nourish that practice, or to help you gain higher insight into that same practice, right? In that, in terms of livelihood and practices of that sort, which might seem like parts of one's life, when a person entails or engages with certain practices that are not dhammic, then it is said to put a person off from the path itself, right? Then put the person off from the path itself. Why is this? Because we must understand, as beings who have lived in samsara, cycling in the cycle of rebirth and death, our most habitual calling of heart would always be to akusala. Would always be to things that lengthen samsara and not reduce it. The practice of reducing samsara is a foreign practice. It is not a practice that we should be knowing. But Tathagatas rise in the world very rarely as abnormal beings who then break that cycle and help other people do the same. This is by no means a worldly Dhamma. Because of that reason, because it is something which is otherworldly and does not belong within the sensual pleasure plane. Because as we know, the plane of sensual pleasure is entirely for the experiencing and ravishing in sensual pleasure. Right? Ravishing in sensual pleasure. Moving on. Serving, 6.5. Serving the Buddha or the saints. And what is the unsurpassable service? Here, bhikkhus, one serves a Shastriya, a Brahmin, a householder. One serves this and that person, or one serves a recluse, or one serves a recluse, or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice.
Practice.
Bhikkhus, this is this service. This is not it, I say. It is not so. Now, you might be wondering why it is only a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Right? This is because, Damsiri, you were wondering that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I don't know how you read my mind.
Right. Great minds, Damsiri, great minds. Now, this is because you see, කල්යාණ මිතුරු ආශ්‍රය ජීවත් වෙනට කල්යාණ මිතුරුත් එක්ක ජීවත් වෙනට කල්යාණ මිතුරුත් එක්ක හිතනට because of that influence you will not be such a person originally. Right? If you are listening to a Brahmin or a recluse of right view, you will in the first instance not be such a person who goes here and there, who would go to Brahmins as if he or she is going marketing or shopping. Right? If it is within monks, it is a way of judgment. By the devotees, the monk, we judge the monk. Right? By the nature of the devotees, we judge the monk. If the devotees seem pious, if the devotees seem quite dedicated and all of that, we imagine, this Bhante is doing a good job. He must be really teaching them some good Dhamma. If it is the other way around, then we would sort of think in another way. Right? That is the reason why a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Right? A Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. This is not it, I say, this is not so. For that service, bhikkhus is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not associated with the spiritual goal, and brings about no revulsion, no fading away, no ending, no stilling, no direct knowledge, no self-awakening, no nirvana. But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, serves the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple. What does single-minded mean? What do you think single-minded means?
Focus.
Focused on nirvana.
Ekka
Liber-
hitting neda. Ekka
Chitta
hitting.
ekagata. Chitta ekagata.
No, we can't say chitta ekagata. We can't say chitta ekagata because chitta ekagata would mean a sense of samadhi. Here, it's talking about a sense of what, dear?
Liberation and nirvana.
No. Here it is not that. Single-minded means basically in Sinhala we say ekka hitake, meaning the lack of senses of restlessness.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
what does that then say about the person?
So you have unwavering faith. කියන්නේ සවිනාස මේ කොහෙවත් හෙලවෙන්නේ නැති එක focused සිත.
No. Unwavering faith would mean that the person is attained enlightenment. What does it mean?
Bhante, is this lack of restlessness that the ninth fetter that you go, that Uddhacca goes off before the Avicca goes off, so you have now spiritually come up to almost Anagami level that you're going to now become?
You don't have to go that far, right?
Mindful.
Sujata, yes?
Mindful, I said.
We can say mindful, yes, we can say mindful. However, it speaks a little bit more to a person who lives suppressing the defilements. How does one suppress the defilements? Sila, Samadhi, Panya.
Panya, yes.
Right? A person who is within the path, isn't it?
Okay.
Right?
And confident. And confident. Confident about the path.
Why would you say that in this context, Lakshmi?
Because if it's unsavoring mind, is sure that going along this path will reach in somewhere. His goal.
I don't think confidence, of course, but here, I don't think confidence has a place here, right? But the sense of restlessness of the mind is an aspect where then a person is unable to grasp the full extent of what is taught, right? It is because of the hindrances being so malignant in the mind. A person cannot have a sense of what's the word, single-mindedness, which in English it sounds like a very sort of negative connotation, but what it is referring to is the fact of the suppressed hindrances of the mind. So this is essentially a person who is living trying to cultivate Sila Samadhi Panya, right? Sila Samadhi Panya, right?
Can it, Swaminathan sir, can it be a Sotapatti person in the Marga?
Can be. It can be a Sotapatti person. It can be a Sotapatti person. Because a Sotapatti person goes on to keep practicing as well.
Yes.
Right? Goes on to keep the practice as well. Full of faith, serves the Tathagata or the Tathagata's disciple. That bhikkhu is the unsurpassable service for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of the physical and mental pain, for gaining the right way, for realizing nirvana. That is to say, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, serves the Tathagata's disciple, this bhikkhu is called unsurpassable service. This was the kind of service that the original person who performed the Katina Pinkama had.
What to do? Oh, Nepal.
All right. All right. Which speaks of the amount of service, the dedication, the initial person who performed the Katina Pinkam had, right? It is because of that sense of devotion that the person was able to experience pleasures of such a great scale, which we now read or hear in Katinanisansa Bana. Right? Without that scale of commitment of mind and body, it would be very difficult to get those benefits. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Right? To get those benefits. Right? That is that unsurpassable service. Right? And what is 7.5? And what is unsurpassable recollection? Here, bhikkhus, one recollects the gain of a son, or of a wife, or of wealth, or of gaining this and that. One recollects the recluse or a Brahmin of wrong view and wrong practice. Because is his recollection, this is not it, I say, this is not so. For that recollection, because is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, associated, is not associated with the spiritual goal and brings about no revulsion, no fading away, no ending, no stilling, no direct knowledge, no self-awakening, no nirvana. But bhikkhus, when one set in faith, set in love, single-minded, full of faith, recollects the Tathagata's disciple, this bhikkhus is the unsurpassable recollection for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of physical and mental pain, for the gaining of the right way, for realizing nirvana. Example, if we take the recollections that we have, Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Silanusati, Chadanusati, Devanusati, Dhammanusati, these anusatis bring about the stilling of the mind, isn't it?
Yes.
These anusatis bring about blessing, true blessing, right? Why? Because these anusatis cause for the stilling of mind, calm, tranquility, and also towards samadhi and one-pointedness of mind. Because these anusatis are not tainted by defilements, by lust, anger, delusion, or any of the other defilements. So the more you remember these things, the more that one calms one's mind. You know, I mean, when you're having a tough day, or if you're having a really bad time and you go to a very nice temple, right? And even by just being in the atmosphere, being in the vihara, being in the bodhi, doesn't your mind just calm and relax?
Yes, it does.
Right?
Excuse me, Bhante.
Yes, Sujata.
Now, I was thinking of the word recollection.
Hmm.
Is there another term then you can use for that, recollection? Recall? No.
We could use the term recalling.
Recollection is a collection, is it? All connected together?
I
We can say, I mean, recalling the qualities of the Buddha.
Yes,
right?
I thought so.
Recollection of the qualities of the Buddha. I think it is rather similar. What do you think, everyone else?
Yeah, similar. Recollects us means thinking
Recalling.
about the greatness of
In Pali, it's Anusati.
Anusati. Yeah.
Anusati, yeah.
Anusati. Recollects and recollection is both the same thing.
Mhm.
correct.
What about reminding?
Hmm.
What
This is
about reminding?
recollection.
It should be.
I was thinking, when you say recollection, we have a certain storage in us. You're bringing that to the focus.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It reminds you of all these things.
Yeah.
Buddha's faith,
Recalling.
everything. It's the same thing, same meaning. Recollect.
Yes.
I think
Something, it's like remembering or recollection or something.
Yes. Yes.
Like when you say recollect, it's like, you know, it's recollecting from a memory.
Memory from the past. That's what I was thinking. The storage somewhere.
You're
It's coming out.
absolutely.
You're
And I
remembering
think
something.
this readversion to that memory or knowledge or understanding of the qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, Dana, Sila,
Yes.
Chakra, and all of these things, the term recollection gives a feel of currentness, whilst the term reminder gives a feel of something that has been forgotten.
Forgotten, yes. You're right, Bhakti.
I feel like the term recollection would be a much more apt word to then use in terms of this, because the person who is walking within the path with motivated by all of that which we are now sort of discussing and talking about, all of these things are things which are current in mind, not something which has been sort of forgotten, really.
And bringing back, yes.
Right? Not something which is forgotten. This is a sense of re-aversion again and again and again and again, a sense of working or allowing the mind to work within these things. Damsiri?
Yeah, I think I can remember in my school time, our teacher using the word recapitulate.
Recapitulate.
Yeah, it's the actually you are uh, revisiting the same when you are doing biology and things like that. You always use the word recapitulate, I think, if I can remember correct.
Recapitulate. Summarize and state again the main points of that.
So,
Is a verb,
yeah.
right? In biology, it says repeat an evolutionary or other process during development and growth.
Mm.
The main features of regeneration in a peripheral nervous system recapitulate development,
Mm.
right? Summarize and state again main points of. Does that sound right?
Very close.
Very close, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? The
That
thing
is-
is, I think when we are recollecting the f- the the the, the qualities of the Buddha Dhamma and the Sangha, we are not really going for the main points. We are going
Mm.
for an image which clearly paints a picture of reality in terms of the qualities that the person, the being has, isn't it?
Yes,
Mm.
It's not the seeking of salient points.
Mm.
Hmm?
correct.
Okay, yeah.
Bhante, also in these cases of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, Chaganusu, Devanusuti, all these are wholesome things. No? You can recollect things which are unwholesome also. But in this case, you recollect the being and the qualities, but all these things are of wholesome things, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Buddha self says it's low and vulgar. It goes like that.
Yeah, hino, gammo, potujjaniko,
Yeah.
anaryo, anatta sanhito. That is what it is referring to. Things that are low and vulgar. This comes from the fact that humans initially were very moral creatures. They were creatures of high ethics and moral ground and standing. It is then with the demise of values in the world that we find ourselves now. There is a story, it's a Jataka story, where the Bodhisattva is born, where the Bodhisattva is born as the king of, not the king, but the leader of a group of monkeys,
Pack
right?
of monkeys, yes.
A group of monkeys. And these monkeys, it is their timely practice when a certain time of the year, something that or in a couple of years or certain time of the year, what they do is they go and they study the humans and then they learn from the humans, right? So then the leader of the tribe is the one who goes and studies and comes back. Right? So in this Jataka, it says, and everyone is excited, it's like an assembly. Everyone is waiting to learn from what is happening. What are we going to learn from the humans? And then the Bodhisattva, he goes to a nearby village, and he sees them painting their faces with certain ointments like makeup, you know makeup, and doing all of these things. And the Bodhisattva is like, oh my gosh, what happened to the humans? Right? And then what essentially he sees that the humans are entailing in these sorts of you know, the makeup and taking care and the beautification of the body and all of that. And he is quite upset, right? So he comes back to the clan of monkeys, and he says, oh, you know, and he tries to avoid the conversation, right? But everyone is waiting for him to say what he saw, right? And then so the Bodhisattva tries to put them off and say, no, let's talk about it later. You know, he doesn't want to ruin the mood, right? And then anyways, they force him, and the Bodhisattva says, oh, you know, but I did not see anything which is good. You know, the humans are, you know, now beautifying their bodies and, you know, all of these things. And he explains, right? The monkeys say, oh my, what an unpleasant thing to hear, what a lowly thing to hear. It is very unbecoming that we have to discuss such lowly things about the humans, what happened to them. And they they were on a rock, and they say, you know, we shouldn't even be staying on this rock, for we had to sort of discuss such lowly things. So they spit on the rock and they leave the rock also. මෙවැනි දේවල් කතා කරන්න ලැබුණේ තැනත් මා අසුබ තැනක් කියලා කෙල ගහලා යනවා වෙන කන්දකට. Right? So it is when we say he, gammo, potujjaniko, anariyo, anatta sannito, all of these things refer to, it is from the bystanding that humans, being the most, or known as the most intelligent beings in the world, are operating with such lowly standards, right? Operating with such lowly standards, right? Okay. Now, that is the sutta, right? So we have those qualities. Now let us come to the commentarial part. Introduction. Ānuttariya from na, Uttariya, often wrongly spelled as Ānuttariya, is both a noun meaning preeminence, supremacy, superiority, excellency, highest ideal, greatest good, and an adjective meaning excellent, incomparable. In the Sampasadaniya Sutta, Ānuttariya refers to the 16 unsurpassables, right? The 16 unsurpassables or virtues of the Buddha listed by Sariputta. When it is clear that these 16 unsurpassables refer to the virtues of the Buddha, the 6 unsurpassables here in the Ānuttariya Sutta, second, refer to the factors that conduce to personal development as the basis for awakening, right? As the basis for awakening.
Right.
So Bhante, then where does the 9 qualities in Itipiso fall into this? Those are 16, and then these 6 are unsurpassable here because these are conducting to personal development for the basis of awakening. Then from where did the 9 that in Itipiso we talk of those qualities of the Buddha that we refer?
But these are not qualities of the Buddha specifically, right?
The mind.
Or no, of awakening.
These are qualities of practice, right? These are, even when the 16 unsurpassable or virtues of the Buddha listed by the Sariputta, these are referred to virtue of practice, right? The qualities of the Buddha are separate from this.
Okay.
Right? The answer, so Ānuttariya, so unsurpassable vision, listening, gain, training, service, recollection. The Ānuttariya Sutta 1 merely lists the above 6 factors without comment. The Raga Ānuttariya Sutta similarly lists the same factors, only mentioning the purpose of the 6 unsurpassables is for the overcoming of lust, raga. The The Ānuttariya Sutta 2, that is a present sutta, discusses each of the 6 unsurpassable in some detail. In the Eka Pudgala Vagga, the 6 unsurpassables are said to manifest with the arising of the Buddha. Because the manifestation of one person is a manifestation of great vision, of great light, of great radiance, of 6 unsurpassables. There is the realization of the 4 analytical knowledges. The 6, which is the Patisambhida, the penetration of various elements, the diversity of elements, dhatu. This is a realization of the fruition of knowledge and liberation. The realization of stream winning, of one's return, of non-return, and arahanthood, right? Who is that one person? It is a Tathagata, the Arahant, the fully awakened one, right? Fully awakened one. 3 supremacies are listed, right? Chula Satchaka Sutta as special qualities of an Arahant, namely in the supremacy of vision, Dassana Ānuttariya, the supremacy of practice, Patipada Ānuttariya, and the supremacy of liberation, Vimuttānuttariya, right? Dassana, Patipada, and Vimutta.
Yes.
Except for the first, the 2 supremacies of the Arahant do not seem to have any counterpart in the 6 supremacies mentioned here. However, it is possible to interpret the remaining 5 supremacies of the practitioner here as an elaboration of the supremacy of the practice, right? Of the supremacy of the practice. Now, this is to say, right? This is to say that when an element, now what this refers to is, let's come back to this statement here. Because the manifestation of one person is the manifestation of great vision, great light, great radiance of the 6 unsurpassables. There is a realization of the 4 analytical knowledges, Patisambhida, right? When we talk about the Patisambhida, right, we have the Atta Patisambhida, Dhamma Patisambhida, Nirutti Patisambhida, and Patibana Patisambhida. Patisambhida essentially means the ability to break apart or analytically know some sort of science, here designated by these 4, right? By these 4. Discrimination of meanings, Attas Patisambhida. You've heard of the Chatupattisambhida Labhi, the term Chatupattisambhida Labhi. There are certain arahants who have this ability which is known as Chatupattisambhida, right? This is where a person or arahant specifically is able to break apart one, Atha. Atha meaning to discriminate the specific meanings of Dhamma. If we take Atha and Nirutti, Nirutti is the language, right? Nirutti, language, the grammar, right? Remember, people like Moggallana, Sariputta, the Asu Mahashravaka, right? The great disciples, most of them, actually all of them, had the Nirutti, the Patisambhida Labhi. They were Patisambhida, right? They had the 4 Patisambhidas. Having the ability, the knowledge of Nirutti, Dhamma, the 4 types of Patisambhida is something which allowed them to attain Nibbana the way they did. right? To attain Nibbana the way they did. Last week, Sutta class, we spoke about the 4 types of Puggalas when it came to learning.
Mm.
Uggatitanyu and Vipanchitanyu. The person who can grasp the Dhamma with a very brief or with a brief wording of it, and the one who grasps, the second one is the one who grasps Dhamma easily when it is explained. This is both possible in terms of learning because these persons have the potential of Patisambhida before enlightenment. Before enlightenment. Patisambhida is specifically a quality, a karmic gift almost, which arises when a person has dealt and learnt the Dhamma into its deep context through the cycles of rebirth and death. It is because of that sort of a practice, as a result, a person receives or is able to now have Chatupatisambhida Jnana.
Mm.
Not all the bhikkhus have it, right? Only the ones who go deep into the Dhamma whilst they were practicing. Damsiri?
Yeah. It's related to Patisambhida Magga also, because that's the explanation or the first reading of Abhidhamma by Sariputta.
Yeah.
Patisambhida, that's actually again the same meaning, right?
It is the same meaning.
Yeah.
It is the same meaning. When a person has the Chatupatisambhida within a person as a quality, he is able to instantly grasp the different meanings and the different usages, grammar, all of it in its different ways. For example, Venerable Anuruddha. No, Venerable, who was the handsome one? Kachayana, Mahakachayana.
Mahakatha.
Venerable Mahakachayana specifically was one who was able to narrate a short discourse in a very lengthy manner because of the Chatupatisambhida. Because of the Chatupatisambhida. Right? So for those of you who are actually practicing, really researching the Dhamma a lot and, doing that, you are in the line for Chatupatisambhida.
Really strong.
Right? All right. Now, we have the discrimination of meanings, Artha Patisambhida. Discriminate. Now, let me tell you, now, I did not do Pali grammar to that much of a big extent, right? But staying in or being in classes where these bhikkhus who were so good at it, did or, were discussing the differentiations of grammar, it would really surprise you how certain small usages completely change the meaning of certain texts of Dhamma.
Mhm.
Reading now, for example, we know the reading of the Tripitaka in Pali is not that difficult. But when it comes to the reading of the commentaries, because remember, just as we spoke of last week, the Dhamma is elucidated mostly using Brahmanical ideals, right? So to go into the specificities of what the Buddha is trying to say, it is very important that there is clarity on what is said. So the commentaries, and even more difficult is the sub-commentaries and the sub-commentaries, these go into very, very technical detail of the sutras or the Abhidhamma. Right? So you can't read the commentaries or the sub-commentaries or the sub-commentaries without truly knowing the deep grammar, which is the deep grammar of Pali, right? Discrimination of meanings discrimination of ideas, Dhamma Patisambhida, right? This is the ability of connecting, understanding which part of Dhamma fits with which other part of Dhamma, right? That is specifically that discrimination of ideas, being able to tell, differentiate between the ideas of Dhamma. Then Nirutti, which is the language, and then the Patibhana Patisambhida, which is the wit. Now, the wit refers to the way of communication and wit which is displayed within the text. Certain times, the Buddha has a certain particular humor. Certain times, the Buddha does not. He's speaking in a very serious manner, a tone. The understanding to differentiate between these is what is the discrimination of wit, right? Is the discrimination of wit, the ability. Yes, Damsiri.
Is it the Gatapada? You know, we have a separate section called Gatapada Viparana, which is the explanation of some hidden explanation in single words.
Yes, I would say it is similar to that.
Yeah, okay.
I would say that it is similar to that because we do get certain stanzas within the Tipitaka, which without understanding the context of which it was taught, it can be rather confusing, right? Can be rather confusing. I mean, some of these stanzas in Pali, you have the translation, but if someone doesn't tell you the meaning, you don't get it, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
Right? That is that bit we are talking about. So yes, Damsir, I think very similar to Gatapada. You know, very similar to that. So then we have, right, the diversity of the four Andika knowledges, the penetration of various elements, dhatu, and the diversity of these elements. The elements, dhatu, satcha, ayatana, dhatu, satcha, right? Skandha, ayatana, dhatu, satcha. Skandha are the aggregates, ayatana are the, what's the English for ayatana, please?
The sense organs.
Ayatana,
Sense faculties.
is ayatana faculties?
Sariyatana. It's a sense.
Sense faculties.
Sense
Faculty, the sense.
Yeah, sense media, sense faculties. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Faculty.
Ayatana, dhatu, elements, and satcha, the truths. Satcha are the Four Noble Truths. Skandha, ayatana, dhatu. These comprise a detailed analysis of mind and matter. Right? These are the deepest parts of mind and matter. Right? The categorizations of mind and matter, satcha, skandha, ayatana, dhatu, satcha. Right? That is why in the Dhamma Sangini, we would break up all the Dhammas into these four, right? To understand with much lucidity the presence of mind and matter in various circumstances. That comes down to the understanding of those specific elements, comes down to then the liberation which comes about through realization. Right? That realization comes through when, now we might talk about starting off, for example, with regard to the breath, right, or the body. Starting out, we speak about the arising and the passing away. As we go ahead in Dhamma, we learn now the arising and passing away, we now do not relate to just as mind and matter. We relate to now deeper states such as skandha, ayatana, dhatu, satcha at a certain point. Right? Now with each specific element, we are able to see the arising and fall of these ayatanas or dhatus. Right? this allows for a deeper understanding of impermanent suffering and non-self. For that deeper understanding to arise, that is why we always remind ourselves not to reinforce Atma or the knowledge that you might be having, but to allow yourself to let go to an extent where insights would arise. Because this does not arise from your mundane knowledge. It arises through very subtle and thicker panya, with a teaching, right? Which then comes about through that aspect of letting go. Because the moment that you apply self again and again and again and again, you're not letting go, you're finding another way to cling. Right? You're finding another way to cling. But it seems as if it is Dhammic, it seems as if it is right, but it is actually not. Right? That is why these Dhammas are very subtle. It is because of that reason that we start with something as the breath.
Yes.
Because that first point, to be able to observe the breath without controlling the breath itself, is a great achievement, and your first step towards literally growing closer to these different states that we are talking about. Because it is essentially letting go there. Yeah? Is that clear?
Yes, Bhante.
Bhante, can I just ask the English word? When you say skandha, do you mean the aggregates there?
Yes.
Yeah. So the ayatana are the sense faculties, the dhatu are the elements or the both. Satya means the truth.
Four Noble Truths.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. The Four Noble Truths. Right. Okay. So any questions? No questions.
Bhante, just one more. When you were talking, therefore, to be careful about seeing it as Dhamma when actually it's not. Is that this Manchaka Dhamma or masquerading Dhamma? No. Is that different?
It can be that as well.
Okay.
It can be that as well. But it is a generalized sense of where you have this ability of discernment.
Thank you, Bhante.
Right? Now, without these, so to summarize, without these 6 unsurpassables, right, you cannot skip them. Right? When we are able to have this sense of unsurpassable vision, listening, gain, training, service, and recollection, this forms a robust practice where from every angle your practice is supported, reinforcing mindful living. Isn't it? I mean, look at it. It is that sense of mindful living, taking into consideration the Eightfold Noble Paths, the Four Noble Truths, Anicca, Dukkha, Anattma, the Dhamma. Having a sense of recollection in mind with regard to the different faculties of Dhamma through which your Chitta, Kaya, Vachana, Chitta, Kaya, Kaya, the 3 actions, the Kaya, Vachana, Chitta, works by this association with the Dhamma. Is that understood?
Yes.
Right.
Bhante,
Yes.
this is about something you mentioned this morning,
Okay.
and it wasn't clear to me at the time. I didn't have time to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You said a lot of people do Kathana Pinkam and give dana with a wrong intention.
Yeah.
And you never mentioned what the right intention is. And also, when you gave a talk on parami, you said the purpose of your dana should be to uplift the state of the mind of the receiver. I couldn't understand what you meant by that. Can you explain?
Yes. It
I
is,
had the same thing in mind, but the same thing about the katina. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. This is to say, now, for example, let's first go into what I mentioned, right? Which is what I said that today's talk is, for example, giving of, I took the example of giving of alms for passing of merits to departed relatives. We often make the main ceremony of alms giving about the passing of merit. But truly, the main purpose of alms giving is to feed those who practice. Through what is derived from that giving is what we share. Is that understood?
Mm.
The main
Yes.
thing is the alms giving. No? In that process, it should be then about the alms giving and the person who is a receiver. The uplifting of a person's mind would then, what as a contemplation it is said is, the food that I am giving is a combination of rupas, which fulfills the purpose of ahara, nourishment. This nourishment goes on to nourish the people who are practitioners, to help them in their practice. That is said to be the truest, purest form of intention when it comes to alms. Anything else, meaning it is good to give alms. We come from families that have been giving alms. We are Buddhists. We give alms because we are Buddhists. Anything, we give alms because we want to pass merit. We give alms because we want to parammaranam, upon death, to reach a state of divinity. All of this comes as wrongdoings in the practice of alms. Just take this for an example. The president of a country. A person wants to become a president of the country for the respect that he receives, for the benefits that he receives. Is that a good intention or not? That is clearly not the intention that should be the governing intention of a person who wants to lead a country,
Right.
isn't it?
Yes.
Right? In a similar way, yes, for example, becoming the president will give you respect and all of these, wealth and all of these things, right? Not wealth if it is a proper thing, but will give you, in Vienna they have a very, in Austria they have a beautiful political system where you will get paid the salary that you received whilst you were working before. So if you are a school teacher, you will get that salary. So becoming the president is a social service which you volunteer for. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
So
we will still get the teacher's salary.
They get the teacher's salary, and by constituted law,
Yes.
after the end of the term, the school wherever they worked must give them that position back. Right? So if you were the principal, for example, you have to get the position back. Right? So anyway, that is what constitutes the right intention of becoming a governor. In the same manner, the action must be true to what is performed.
Yes.
If you're doing something to get something else, that is a trade-off. In Venerable Renuka Bante's book, it says, Pararthakami Vesayen Atmarthakami Pararthakami Vesayen Atmarthakami Krutyak Sampurna Kirima Tamai Vanchaka Adhasakya. Right? Isn't that then what we are doing? පරාර්ථකාමී දන් දෙනවා. ඒත් තියෙන චේතනාව ආත්මාර්ථකාමී. මගේ ඥාතීන්ට පින් පිණිස. Right?
Right, Swamina. At the same time, when you're giving a dana, from the time you're cooking, everything should be, your mind should be really pure. You should cultivate the giving without
in
attachment.
the circumstance, yes. It should be, I mean, it should be, the thing is, we give danas every day. I mean, you would be cooking for your family every single day, right? This can be a dana, right? Too, right? In that way, if we are to take it in that way. But the thing is, that is why and we will do it. I think it is important that we go back to that session on the paramis and we go maybe through presentations like we did today, that we go through section by section, because it will absolutely baffle you, right? When you take the true crux of what the Buddha is saying, there is no loophole. Right? And of course, now, for example, you people are intelligent. Now, for example, I remember when I used to live at Nawena, I can't read Sinhala, right? So sometimes people, bring like these big sort of things, pages and pages and pages on Anumodana. And you only have 30 minutes bana, right? For Anumodana, you only have 30 minutes. So if you go to read the whole sort of patra that they give, and sometimes people become very, very violent if you don't read their names. And maybe people like that also. People become very, very disheartened, right? If you don't read out the names, it is absolutely flabbergasting. Quite bizarre, actually. Right? Very bizarre. And that is why I think, the Buddha said this Dhamma is for the intelligent, because sometimes we grasp onto, things to make our life feel complete. We grasp onto different things. But the thing is, you're not going to get that from the Dhamma is if your mind is in that low position, right? To bring your mind up to a position where you are now regarded as a wise person according to the measures of the Buddha, you have to have that commitment, that ability to put aside your views and to think in a in a logical, sensible manner that you can see some sort of truth, right? Some people cannot. It doesn't come to their mind, especially when people are distracted. Now probably when you were also quite young, right? Maybe just starting off your families, you all were probably the same in a certain way. You all had, you all were newly married, you had your careers to think about, children, all of these things. But now that you all have calmed down a bit and you have done everything that you ought to have done, now you can see a bigger picture. Now, because why? You're not distracted, you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders as if, right? Even in Colchester, it is very difficult. The devotees are quite good and all of that, but they are young families. Dhamma is, I had to call each and every one of them and tell them personally, or else it's really like getting a bunch of cows to go somewhere. Because their life, it's not that they are bad, it's the fact that they have so much going on in their lives that they do not see the importance of this right now. But the moment someone gets sick, but the moment the child gets sick, the moment COVID happens, now people seem to have a vested interest in understanding the reality of life. Right.
Bhante, can I ask a question?
Yes.
About dana, giving alms. But if you are getting a Dhamma sermon and in order to invoke blessings to a dead parent or something like that, what is the intention you should have then there?
It is quite simple. The intention to share Dhamma, which alleviates the pain and suffering of people leading to Nibbana.
Mm. As a byproduct, you will get the merits, isn't it?
The merit is always a byproduct. Remember, the merit is in the pure consciousness.
Yes. That's what I was going.
It is not a thank you gift. You know what I mean, right? When you
Yeah.
do a good job, you get a thank you gift from your business or whatnot, wherever you're working from, or a birthday present or a Christmas gift or something like that. It is not something like that. The merit is a part of the pure practice.
Yeah. So, Mante, is it bad to say, banak kiyawanakota, to remember your mother or father? This me bana kiyawanne me miyage ඥාතීන් පිරිසක් කියන එක වැරදිද?
It is not Lakshmi. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ මේක වැරදිද හරිද කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ නෙමෙයි. මේක
Yes.
පිරිසුදුද නැද්ද කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
අත්දැකීම්. කමන්නේ බාන්තේ මගේ disconnect වුණා.
නෑ, I can hear you.
Bante, so what I want to know is when you give a dane, your main intention should be to give food to the priests who are practicing Dhamma. Is that it?
Who give food
Yeah.
which would alleviate hunger and need for the arousing of energy, enabling higher practice.
Oh, I see.
You see that?
This is something very new to me.
Is it? Let's do the parami. I think we should do the parami thing, because even I honestly must say certain things that were there in the presentation were quite surprising to me also. Because it goes into, when you do the research, it goes into such great depth, right? And you realize, my gosh, it's only for Nibbana. So it is not the fact of, am I doing a sin? It's not sin. It's the fact of, is this something which leads to Nibbana? Meaning, is this pure or not? Right? Is this pure or not? After the Bana, Sanjeev called and he said, he listened to the Dalai Lama, who has said, with regards to, because I said a call to action, isn't it? At the end of the sermon in the afternoon. And I said, that we should, the call to action. So someone has asked the Dalai Lama, as a Buddhist monk, if someone attacks you, how are you supposed to defend yourself? Are you not supposed to defend yourself? And the Dalai Lama has answered back in this manner, which is beautiful. Understanding the action and the person is important. The action that is done and the person who commits the action. These are two things. The distancing or the guarding of oneself should be from the action. The person should be approached with compassion. Did you understand?
No malice towards him.
In a way, because guarding oneself from the action is also, in another way, the protection of the person committing the action. Is that clear? I thought that was a beautiful way the Dalai Lama put it. It is, the Buddha has said the same thing, right? In a different way. Right? In a different way. But I think the Dalai Lama has said that beautifully, in understanding the difference between the person who's doing, the person who commits the action, and the action itself. These are two different things. You break this apart because action happens and it finishes. Right? But then there's a person. The person should be treated with compassion. Because why? Not to hug and embrace a person, but to understand the faculties that led to the person acting out in such a manner. The frailty of mind which made him erupt in such an unbecoming fashion. I think that was very beautiful. What do you think?
Bhante, when you say that you
Nice.
understand the action, and when you say that you're actually, that is to protect the person, is it because you're protecting that person from the karma vipaka of that action? Is that what you mean by that? You
Yes.
understand? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the Buddha did that as well.
Mm.
Now the Buddha doesn't need to take showers, by the way, right? Because his body is such that even without showers, he doesn't smell bad, right?
Yes, my God, Buddha, yes.
You know, it is part of the, but the Buddha does all of that and allows Ananda to do the avateva in order to give Ananda the opportunity of doing so.
Mm.
The Buddha did a very similar thing within his practice, especially even with the arms. You know, if the Buddha doesn't go for alms, the king sends alms. And there were certain days, for example, in the Ānuttariya Sutta, where a Brahmin comes to question the Buddha why he's eating meat, right? The king sends alms, and all of the dishes had meat in them, right? And you know, so they are having a discussion about Amaganda. Amaganda is Pili Ganda. Ama can Pili Ganda. Pili.
Yes.
Ganda. Amaganda. So the Buddha, now the king sends, you know, people from the palace and sends, oh, the Buddha did not come for alms. So he sends alms, served in different dishes. And there was a yagu, a rice porridge, which was with chicken. And you know, in Burma we have a very similar rice porridge which we also enjoyed in the mornings with chicken in them. So what he did was he would spoon out a piece with a spoonful with chicken, and then he would put it into his mouth. Now he's talking about Amaganta with this Brahmin whilst having the chicken in his mouth. You could imagine the Buddha in his humor, right? And now the Brahmin, now they're talking, they're having a discussion. The Brahmin can't believe his eyes. You know, and the Buddha is saying, when the food came, the Buddha was saying, yes, household, you know, one should not, you know, consume Amaganda, you know, and the Brahmin is very happy. The Brahmin is very happy. Oh, sadhu, sadhu, Bhagava, you know, this is what I thought as well. And now when the food comes, he's eating meat. So you could imagine the Brahmin's face. You could imagine the Brahmin's face, and he's shocked, right? And he says, the Buddha, Bhagava, you know, other than not doing what the Bhagava says, the Bhagava is also lying. Absolutely shocked, right? And then the Buddha says, Brahmin, Amaganda is not what is consumed. Amaganda is being dusila. Dusila.
Yes.
Vachana, duskayika kriya. These are bad acts of mind, of body, speech, and mind. This is what the Bhagavad says is Amaganda.
Amaganda. Okay.
Duscharita, you could call it.
Yeah, unwholesome acts of body, speech, and mind.
Yeah.
Right? Ānuttariya Sutta. Right? Ānuttariya Sutta. So, reading the, you know, there are certain suttas, my gosh, the Buddha is so funny, you know. And also you get this sort of aspect of how chill the Buddha was, you know, where, I mean, just imagine being such a powerful person, right? I mean, he was so powerful at the time, right? And also was a person who would just sort of be sitting in the forest. The poor people came, the wealthy people came, you know, it was an open door, right? So to have that sort of personality, to be such sort of character, my gosh. Yes, dear.
And isn't that the same thing what you told us before, that just before he died, when he was going, that Sukaramadda which was prepared, he knew that that was not fit for consumption, but he wanted to give the merit for that person. And he also said, now don't say that he's the one who gave something, and there should be no kind of accusation that he had caused the death of the Buddha. He said that because he knew that that thing was,
I can't remember whether it was unfit for consumption.
that it was poisoned, or that there was something wrong with that.
Yeah, that it was because it created this sense of
dysentery. Yeah,
right?
he had the dysentery from that.
Yes.
But he didn't, but he still took it, and he knew that people will associate the two things and say that that person, and he was very specific that no one should attach blame to him or something, because he had done with the purity of his heart to do the best, and he didn't realize that this was going to cause this dysentery that caused it, I think. So that was how great his compassion was for people to get merit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in the Buddha movie that I saw, and Buddha has said he took the this curry, and he said not to give it to the other monks, like he said to put it aside. Only he consumed it.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So I think that's the end of the session for today. I'm a bit tired, so I didn't take a big sutta, but let's do a bigger sutta next time. How did you find the sutta talk today? I did it in a bit of a different manner with the presentations. Dil, I feel like you want to say something.
No, I really liked it, but I saw the big difference. Normally you speak spontaneously without any kind of presentation and putting up, paragraphs, and that's what most other people particularly whose English is not so familiar with, they do that because it's easier to see something and to write, and also the mind is not so focused, so you can't. But you did that, but it was very comprehensive, and there was a lot of things that you went in a sequential order, so it was easy then for us to recollect and to put it into format into our own minds, because the importance is the listening to it. It's not the writing of notes, and it's, always we are told this in Amaravati, just listen, because it's that changes. So that was easier to do because of the way you presented it.
There was far too much things that I
information.
Yes.
Possible to cover that within an hour. And I
Yes.
thought that a presentation would be easier. So I think I got through about 30 odd pages of information through those slides. So I should have done that for the I'll do a Parami session, a course on that where we cover, but it's easier to get the information for, because there's a lot, there's a lot. And just the weight of the practice of the Indriya itself, it is like the guard dog almost, of our sensory perception. And also something that we would have to go in through is the Indriya Bhavana technique, the Indriya Bhavana, which is gaining a lot of popularity at the moment with certain bhikkhus talking about it and all of that. And it's also a very effective technique. So I think, we were able to get through, I was able to get through so much of data because of the presentations, which I thought was good. And it had that flow, because sometimes I ramble on as well,
But if you are much more passionate when you just speak spontaneously. But if you can put that onto the website, then we have, because I just didn't write anything. I just listened and absorbed as much as I could, because there was a map that I could form in my mind. But if you put it in on that, then we can listen again and make some short notes, so that it's easier for us to have
recording. I will put it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. And also, Bhante, your on Sunday, the Metta Bhavana you did was exceptional. Would you please, and you recorded it, Bhante, because I saw the record button. Can you please put that on our website for us? It was really exceptional. You did it very different this Sunday. You started with, somebody else commented during that, I think one of the younger members who said that unlike normally where You have metta to yourself and radiate to others, or that you took the people who you first brought gratitude in, which I absolutely loved about the Buddha, and then you brought the suffering and compassion of people all around. So, and then the understanding and the compassion. So it beautifully went from those feelings of very high vibration, which you connected them all in exactly the way they should be. So I just did the meditation, but didn't take any notes. We'll be very grateful if you could put that one thing. You did it very differently to other times, and how everybody else does it, from me to others, or others to me, and then to the whole world, and that kind of thing. Thank you, Bhante.
Sometimes it's egg kottu, sometimes it's fish kottu, you know what I mean?
But this was all the kottus together, and the up and the India up also. So that's why it was so good. Every word there was a feeling that led to the next one and to the next one. Different feelings: gratitude, compassion, understanding, forgiveness. So it was very good. Metta finally. Thank you, Bhante.
All right then. Take care. Good night, and I'll see you on Saturday. Okay. Take care.
Saranai, Hadare.
Saranai.